can the golden child turn into the scapegoat? And so here's what one of our community members said. I'm not proud of it, but I used to be my mom's golden child. Everything I did was praised. Now I can't do anything right, and it feels like I've become the scapegoat. What causes this switch in narcissistic families, and why does it happen?
Okay, wonderful question. I want people to think about how the nature of a narcissist is never consistent. Part of their presentation is to be inconsistent. And the method or the reasoning for that is to keep everyone destabilized and always trying to pursue that approval piece, that sense of stability or consistency. So, what I like to think of is if the narcissist is always inconsistent to create chaos, the child is in some way trying to figure out how to maintain something that feels predictable, consistent. It's a way of them regulating their own mood or the mood of the narcissist. So again, going back to if they've been feeling like the golden child, like they're celebrated, like everything they do is quite meaningful for the narcissist. Well, that makes them feel good, but that doesn't really have the longevity the narcissist would maybe want them to have because the narcissist is still looking for a way to get their own needs met, which means if the golden child is, achieving all of these things, in a way, the narcissist isn't really getting their supply. It's only as good as it's good. So if the things are being achieved, there still is this potential unsettling energy within the narcissist because they need to create chaos. They need to create a sense of that power dynamic. And so it does them no good in a way to just let a child settle into a role. They want to cause a bit of a disruption in that role so that it destabilizes the child. And I'm saying even an adult child, I'm just using that as the term of, the child, of course, to then feel a little uncomfortable that they weren't good enough. Something has happened. How did they lose favor with the narcissist? So once they realize something is going on and they're being ridiculed, they're being devalued, it has the potential to reignite that energy of going after something a little bit more and making the narcissist be like kind of reminded, I still can control you. I'm still able to, destabilize you and cause you to lose sense of who you are and still depend on me and what my approval is, what my needs are to still be the main, um, I guess, focus in the relationship.
Okay, so you're saying golden child definitely can turn into the
Yeah,
scapegoat, and the
yeah,
reason
yeah,
that this switch can happen, or like what causes this switch, is because the inconsistency piece that you just
yeah,
said, that the very nature within
yeah,
narcissistic individuals is this inconsistency, and it also enforces their control when
yeah,
they kind of can disrupt the family dynamics, and
yeah,
everybody is like very insecure
yeah,
about their stance there, and
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
so that causes it. Um, I was also kind of thinking about myself before this meeting with you today. Is this a separate thing, or does this go under what you just said, but loss of idealization? So, because golden child, if you think about it, represents kind of the narcissist in a positive view, like
Mhm.
so can the golden child turn into scapegoat if they, let's say, all of a sudden do not positively reflect the parent, so kind of they lose the idealized, I don't know how to say it, but like loss of idealization, is that also a reason why a golden child might turn into a scapegoat?
That the golden child turns into the scapegoat because I'm sorry, I think I lost you there because the can
Yeah,
you
the
repeat?
golden.
I feel like
Yeah,
I
so the golden child loses their kind of this favored
right.
role because they no longer meet the narcissistic parents' unrealistic expectations. So
Yes.
they, let's say, they make a mistake, or they do not succeed in a way that flatters the
Yeah.
narcissistic parent anymore, and this happens because they have kind of idealized. They see
Yeah.
themselves through the child, like they have idealized image of themselves, and
Yeah.
through the golden child. And when the golden child fails, they feel
Mhm.
almost like betrayed. Like,
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
can you
So
fail?
exactly. When I've already been encouraged or I felt like I had the attention and the positive reinforcement from the narcissistic parent, what happened? But yes, absolutely. I mean, again, I go back to what the narcissist needs, which is not to feel like anyone else understands any predictability and what they're looking for. It really always comes back to it's never going to be enough. it will never, ever be enough. So it does set up a child, as you just said, to feel like I've always done everything I thought right. What happened that I fell out of favor? Why was that not good enough when it was good enough yesterday? You
Mm.
know, there's always something. I don't know if I should use an example or not, but I just quickly, I remember talking to a client once that talked about how everything was always perfect and they were always making sure everything was perfect. And one day out of the blue, something they did that they had always done, they just found one little criticism to judge
Oh.
them, and it really unraveled them and caused them to feel again confused and lost and critical of themselves and very guilty and very shame-based because just one small thing, and it wasn't even anything, in my opinion, meaningful, but
Mm.
enough to let that person, I think this is what you're saying, to feel like I thought I had it figured out.
And
And I
was this client of yours like golden child usually? And then
Um, yes, at the
mm.
time, because those roles
Yeah.
shift. But at the time, again, it was their own ability to feel like they had mastered what they thought they needed because they meant, it was, safe and everything was achieved and they felt connected and they felt the predictability of what they needed to feel connection to the narcissist. So again, it's just part of the game of a narcissist. You will never perhaps ever really feel that consistency in any of the roles that you think you need to be in order to maintain a connection. It doesn't work for the narcissist. They still need to, in some way, destabilize you to keep that power differential in place and cause
Mm.
you to feel like you're losing your mind.
Yeah, I think that's a good ad because I believe it might be sometimes kind of common misconception that a golden child is always a golden child,
Yeah,
scapegoat is always the scapegoat,
yeah,
but in reality they're actually very fluid, ever changing, creating that uncertainty. Okay.
yeah, yeah. It's the chaos and the drama of the family. And those roles move very quickly sometimes. Sometimes they're not so quick. So maybe they're not as noticeable and they might be a little more gradual. And then all of a sudden you realize something shifted. And in other families, depending on the energy of the narcissist, because we know it's on a continuum, those roles might switch very, very quickly, causing even more chaos within the family system and uncertainty of who am I in this system.
Okay, so are you saying like to simplify, to be the more narcissistic the person is on the others on the continuum, the more likely it is that the roles shift even faster. Is that what you're
Well,
saying?
yeah, yeah. Sometimes that mood energy from the narcissist, if they are very temperamental, because narcissists show up a little bit differently, right? I don't want to get too off the topic
Yeah.
there. But again, I don't think it's good for people to think maybe a one size fits all when we're talking about the word narcissist, because that word is flung out in so many different conversations now. I think you still need to understand, yeah, there's some general common pieces to it. But if you have a very, very temperamental narcissist who is even more likely to erupt or to be to shift that mood, because some are a little more sullen, they're a little more victimized, they're a little more of that depressed piece, so people might be able to manage some of that mood a little bit better. But if they're very reactive on a more regular basis, then that can cause maybe those roles to be a little more shifting fast because that energy feels more threatening.
Yeah, that actually um, makes me think of like this one idea that I came across that also kind of stress can intensify those like role
Mhm.
changes because narcissists they are very unable to regulate their emotions, so then they lash out to whoever is closest. So it doesn't matter if it's the golden child, but if there's no one
Exactly.
else in that moment and they can't like deal with whatever, so they can just offload their frustration
A
no
hundred
matter if
percent.
it's the golden child or scapegoat.
Yeah,
And so that might also like, and
yeah,
that probably creates a lot of confusion for the child because they might not have done anything. They have
yeah,
thought that they are like, now it's been very good season. I'm like kind of doing everything okay. Then
yeah,
something happens and it's actually caused by the parents' inability to regulate their emotions, and something happens and
exactly.
they can't
Yeah,
handle it, and they just are
yeah.
very frustrated and yeah.
Yeah. The thing I was also going to mention based on what you said is if you think about a child who's an only child in a narcissistic family,
Mm.
then obviously they are prone to serve many roles depending on what is going on. So that's an example of maybe a person understanding. Maybe it does get confusing if you've got multiple siblings that are, have different roles within the family, but one child can equally flip-flop into different roles depending on what the narcissist needs. So yeah, they can be valued and then devalued very quickly. And I think that, again, one of the hallmarks of a narcissist narcissist is they are attracted to something that they want to boast about because you're an extension of them. So for a while, it can be that they're going to really celebrate you, but they cannot tolerate feeling like somebody deserves that kind of treatment because it goes against their fragile ego. So that's why also there would be an intolerance of maybe celebrating a person too much because they aren't strong enough to manage. I'm good and so are you. No, no, if I'm saying you're good and you're perfect at all these things, that's starting to threaten my own sense of who I am. So I've got to remind myself of how you are also capable of not being as good as I'm telling you you are,
Mm.
because I have to reclaim some sense of my own inner security in myself. So I'll devalue you to remind myself how good I am at your expense because I
Yeah.
can't on my own.
Yeah. Okay. So now to conclude, if the question is like, can the golden child turn into the scapegoat? Short
Mhm.
answer, yes. and
Yeah,
and
short
then
answer, yes.
how would you like summarize like what causes this switch and why does it happen? Like if you had to make a tweet about this.
Oh, good God, if I have to make a tweet about it. I think the tweet would just simply be something along the line of uh, narcissists aren't consistent because their egos will not tolerate consistency. They're too susceptible. So they need to create confusion and chaos. They can't let you feel safe. That's it.
Yeah.
You're never going to feel safe. So it's going to shift all the time.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. That was good.
Okay.